Welcome to Kevin Richards VIPs. My amazing guest this week is an incredible woman and in an industry where caring is absolutely key. My guest this week is Janice Skot. So I'm sitting here at the amazing RVH with the also amazing Janice Skot. I've been trying to line this interview up for quite some time. In fact, several years. We've gone back and forth by email and different assistants and all these different things to try and make this happen. So thank you for finally being a guest on my show today.
I'm so glad to be here, and we're right in our brand new cardiac interventional unit, so that's really exciting.
Before I really do anything and unpack getting to know you, I want to say thank you for a couple of things. One, this hospital did all kinds of amazing work on my knee, and I can run around and do stuff and chase my kids because of it, so thank you for that. But earlier this year, my dad had a heart problem, and he came in and he was in your cardiac unit, and he was in there for almost a month. And the best thing about this hospital was they asked him how he was all the time, how he was feeling. And it wasn't about, okay, next person in, let's get him out, let's send him home, because he was asked how he felt, and he felt more comfortable here. So they reworked on him, and they worked on him, and he's in such great condition now, which is, you know, the wonderful side of the rainbow to that story, because there's many times that doesn't happen. But so thank you for that and taking such good care of my dad.
Well, thank you for the compliments, and well, it's really exciting then that we're in the cardiac interventional unit, where all of our great staff and physicians, are really performing important work each and every day. And I appreciate you saying thank you to me, but truly, it's the frontline staff, physicians, and even the Blue Brigade volunteers who really make this happen every day.
Well, I see them around the hospital, the Blue Brigade,
yes.
And they're really wonderful.
There actually isn't another volunteer auxiliary association in Ontario that's more highly thought of than ours. These are people that just give so much of their time, and they show me they really enjoy being here, but the difference they make to, first of all, the patients and their families, but also, of course, to physicians and staff, it's just remarkable. We couldn't run the place without them.
Well, it's got to start from somewhere, and then that sort of energy just does nothing but multiply, right?
But
the ripple effect.
What your dad described as how he felt is really what we've been working on culturally.
Yeah.
So I believe that the public could come into RVH feeling that we're clinically competent, so you could get the work done. What we're trying to do is ensure we elevate that practice to be really part of a caring culture where you're not a number, but you feel like you are an individual patient. And this is a major part of our strategy for a number of years now. So I'm glad to hear it's working.
Oh, I appreciate it. And I think there's that whole scenario where some people come in, certainly not to RVH, but they go into a hospital and they feel like just a number or a piece of meat laying on a bed, and they're laying in hallways, and they don't see what's going on behind the scenes. So let's unpack this a little bit. Before we get to know you a little bit, I want to ask you, what part of the hospital are we in? Because this is a lot different than the old RVH on Victoria Street. This is a new place, and you've got a whole new wing opening up here.
Yes, this is actually, we're sitting in the cardiac interventional unit, and this is a unit that just opened in January of 2018. So this is where patients would come to both receive, for example, a diagnostic work on the heart, an angiogram, and recover in one of these areas. As well, we've just started angioplasty, which is more of the interventional work for heart patients, just last Monday actually. This has been part of a 10-year plan to bring cardiac care closer to home. The main reason is that time is muscle, and so when patients have a heart attack and then a long time wait until they're able to receive care, there's more damage to the heart muscle. So we've been able to open this service, and by about 2020, which used to sound a long time ago, but it's just 18 months away, we will be a 24/7 operation where ambulances can bypass other emergency departments, bring the patients right here, even bypass our emerge straight up to the 4th floor, and there will be a 24/7 operation with very competent and skilled physicians and nurses being able to provide the care people need.
Well, that's awesome.
It is awesome, and it's all been part of a graduated approach. Like anything else we're learning to do, we want to make sure we're proficient on the scheduled side, so when a heart attack does happen, anytime, night or day, we're here and we're ready for you.
Now, the other thing I've really noticed too is just even in the last few years, well, I can't say a few, over time, it's funny how you see things sort of in transition, how, RVH is, on a funding campaign and they're trying to get more money towards a cancer care unit, and then the community involvement, whether it's a hockey game, whether it's a Rotary Club involvement, or different things around town. I think the community of Barrie really embraces RVH better than a lot of communities embrace their hospitals.
Well, I think one of the, part of the secret sauce for RVH is that the community has always only had one hospital. So if you go to other communities, you could see organizations that were either divided or built around language or religion.
Yeah.
And one of the appealing factors for me 14 years ago when I was thinking of coming was that it's the only hospital since 1891 the community has been able to rally around a single facility, a single hospital program.
Yeah.
I think secondly, I would say that when we ask for something from our community, we also deliver. So donors say to me, I know where my money is going and that it's going to make a difference.
Absolutely.
And then they come back to celebrate an opening. So we've been very fortunate to have, first of all, cancer care, then child and youth mental health, and now cardiac care, all part of our regional strategy.
Yeah.
Now only 50% of our patients come from Barrie, but 50% therefore from outside of the City of Barrie. So we really have become a regional resource. And I think in keeping with that, we've seen our donations and support from municipalities from around the region and individual donors also making a contribution to RVH because they know we're there for them when they need us.
Well, watching this place grow from the old place down on Victoria Street into this, my parents live a block away from here, and I watched when the old boardwalk and the old swamp that was here were all torn down, and that might be way before you being in Barrie, the old boardwalk, but there used to be a swamp below this, and that was, this hospital just grew, and every once in a while you all of a sudden see this new portion of it that is like, where did that come from?
Right.
And these new procedures and everything that's going on here is all fantastic.
Thank you.
So what's one of your toughest things though that you deal with as a hospital? Like people love to criticize wait lines and waiting times, and I don't think they really necessarily know what is a good waiting time or not. They just tend to say, I was there for 2 hours, I was there for 6 hours, I was there for whatever. What are some of the things that determine how fast somebody gets through a hospital or those times?
Well, I think one of the key areas, if you're looking at an area that concerns us, would be wait times. Barrie's story is RVH's story, meaning that the city and the region are growing so quickly, and we've been trying to keep pace with that. So even though in 2012 we doubled the size of the building, we opened up regional programs, we added 100 beds to our organization. The growth has outstripped us. In the last 2 years, our visits have gone up by 25%.
That's
right,
a
and
lot.
Barrie, and the population has grown by 35,000.
It's one of Canada's most progressive cities.
Exactly, but keeping up with that, I think, has been a struggle. And in addition to that, surprisingly enough, our population is as healthy as the entire province of Ontario.
Yeah.
So if we have people who are smoking, drinking excessively, or not exercising, and maybe eating the wrong foods, all of that contributes to chronic disease.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of data that tells us not only is our population growing and aging, but the population that we serve could be healthier.
Well, it's unfortunately one of the trends that we tend to follow some of the things of our friends south of the border. And one of the things I think is disappearing is our ability to want to just eat right. Easy access, things faster, quicker, and with that you lose quality.
We're a really busy society, therefore it's busy for our kids as well. But I think this other aspect of this would be physical education every day in those elementary schools and high schools, because then people have that part of their lifestyle. When they become adults like us, it's just natural that you want to exercise to stay healthy.
But when we were kids, we were forced to go outside to play. And all these different things, and electronics, and all these things have changed things.
Yes.
And
you have to work harder at it.
Let's reroute here a little bit here, because it's time to get to know you a little bit here too.
Right.
So what is it like for you knowing that you have these pressures of a hospital, that you've got to delegate and steer the boat, you're going to steer the ship here? What's it like for you on a daily basis? What's your day start off like? Is it usually meetings? Do you take a tour of the hospital? Like what is it that you do?
First of all, it's a privilege to be RVH's president and CEO. I mean that sincerely.
Cool.
I don't think I've had a day where I didn't want to be here, I didn't want to come back. And that's in 14 years, so I'm very, very fortunate.
You get to make a difference every day.
Well, I hope I do, but I do that with a phenomenal team.
Yeah.
So this is the key. That is the other part of the secret sauce, is just having a really competent, caring, and passionate senior leadership team, and I do. And so obviously the work we do as a team is far more powerful than the work I do as an individual. So I can't say there's a regular day, but what's really important for me personally to start my day is exercise. So it's usually either a very early fitness program. There's one at 5:30 that my husband and I go to, or this morning.
Some people don't know there's 2 5:30s in a day.
Or there's this morning we were out walking just to get something, and I love to swim. So that's just a really important mental mindset for me. The other part, of course, is just being prepared for the day. We've been focusing a lot on values. We have 5 key ones that we talk about. Work together, respect all, think big, own it, and of course care. And we work a lot with our staff with respect to how we can all demonstrate those values on a daily basis, which once again leads to phenomenal patient and family-centered care.
Owning and caring are two very big things that a lot of people tend to, they say they care, but they don't tend to take the ownership of the responsibility of caring.
Right. Yes. And owning it means we take accountability for the work that we do.
Yeah,
For sure. But I love the days where I am walking through the hospital.
Yeah.
I can give you a brief example.
Please.
On the weekend, one of the managers of the surgical inpatient unit sent me an email and said, I really hate to bother you, but we've had a patient for a long time. This patient's going home Monday, which is yesterday, and he just really wants to meet you. So
nice.
Could it work? So I looked at everything, and we came in and we made some changes, and I went over to meet this patient. And this patient wanted me to know that he was just so pleased with the care he received. He actually mentioned staff by name and why they really were able to push him from a rehabilitation perspective, that he's actually much healthier leaving the hospital than he anticipated. So that was a really great way to start a Monday.
That's a great target to overshoot, isn't it?
I know. But on my way over, I was stopped by an employee, and this employee said, I really want to talk to you because, I came to Barrie with a little less than she was in an impoverished state actually, but she went through for a first degree and a second degree, and she has all of these opportunities she feels because of RVH, and she just wanted to say thank you. And we had a bit of a talk about our similar backgrounds and how we've had to really be resilient and work through some of these issues, and I think it's just left such an impression on me what an impact we have as an organization on people's lives.
And that's an excellent
She was
message.
really emotional, and I really, we had a hug, and I really sort of thought, this Monday can't get any better, actually.
That's so great.
Yes.
Now, do you find, though, that sometimes maybe because of a movie where some guy feels that he has to shoot himself to get his son's heart into his son, the movie I'm talking about, right? It's an incredible Denzel Washington movie. Anyway, so you see these movies, you see these shows going on in the United States where they make the hospitals always look greedy and terrible. And here in Ontario, we see it differently. But what would you see as the biggest difference between Ontario, maybe other provinces, or more in particular the United States, in giving health care?
The greatest difference is universality. So in Ontario, you can go into any hospital and you're receiving care because of the way we're funded, which is through the Ministry of Health and Long-Term Care specifically. Whereas in the States, it really depends on what your private insurance is about. So for those who do not have private insurance, it's a very difficult system. For those that do, they receive a different tier. And in Ontario, everyone is treated the same. So I think universality is the number one differential for us.
For sure, because in the States you could lose a home because somebody gets sick for a month.
These are the stories that are told, absolutely. And we know for some of our snowbirds who end up in the States and then need care, that they're, without the right insurance, they are pretty shocked at the price of health care. And health care is expensive, which goes back to the first part of the conversation, which is taking care of ourselves, trying to identify early any issues that we have, and having access to primary care to make sure you can stay healthy and stay out of the hospital.
Smart. So what is it like for you then to take some of this stuff at the end of the day, you go home, maybe there's something that went really sad that day or really great. How do you celebrate and how do you handle the good things?
Well, my husband Vic and I have raised 4 children together during these busy 14 years, and I was equally busy in Sudbury as the CEO of Laurentian Hospital. So what I've really consciously tried to do, though, is in the drive home is when I have to make sure that I am decompressing a little and not bringing that home to the family. That's not their issue, and that's not fair. I think that my family would be sometimes a bit surprised with what I do deal with, because I try really hard not to bring that into my home life.
For sure.
The opposite's true, though. They're just such a great family that when I get there, it makes everything a little bit easier. So I think it's just that ability to decompress and make sure the drive is a pretty effective way to examine, how did I perform today in my job? Could I have done something better? This is an issue that needs to be dealt with, and either I'll work on it in the evening when the kids are in bed, for example, when they were younger, or we'll pick it up again tomorrow. So I think having the family is the jewel again for me, and making sure I don't bring that home. At the same time, if I can, without ever breaching confidentiality, share a great story about something that happened, then I do that as well. Vic, who's a Rotarian, also says to me, so-and-so was in the hospital. And he said, well, didn't you know? I saw Janice. And I said, well, no, you won't ever know because confidentiality is a number one issue for us. So he will now say to the person, oh, no, she'd never tell me. So I'm glad you had a good experience. But no, we don't share that information at home.
Well, it's nice how family extends, not even just at home, though, but you've got your RVH family.
I do.
And one of the things I think that is healing people a lot of the time around here is the ability to feel like, even as a patient, it's like there's a family looking after you. It's not, I have to say that sometimes it's funny walking through the hospital because you do see the people who've never really been here, and it's kind of like a scene from WKRP, and you know that there's people who are follow the blue line to the red line.
They won't get off that line.
No,
especially the kids.
And they're like, but I can't go over there. It's like, go. But it's a great hospital. It's incredibly organized. And I think that you must have those days where you just want to high five everybody as well too for such a great job. What are some of the goals that you have with RVH or that you see RVH is doing on its own?
Well, we really have been focusing on our culture of caring. And we know that an engaged workforce will result in higher quality of care. And a measure of engagement is about, I think, a caring environment. So on the staff side, for example, we've been working on a number of initiatives to ensure that the most important person to our employee is their immediate supervisor. It's not me. So what's really important is that immediate supervisor has a consistent approach across all employees, all departments, and all services. So we like to make sure they're meeting with the employees on a regular basis to have a one-on-one conversation. We've changed our performance review process to be more of a conversation about what you would like to be doing with your career in your future. So we're really working at ensuring we have a gym on site, try to provide programs and services for the mind, the body, and the soul. And those are all important pieces that people are engaged. And we know if they're engaged, they want to come to work. And when they want to come to work, they'll provide phenomenally good care to our patients and their families. And of course, we're offering very similar services for our medical staff as well. So that Team RVH is important. And at the same time, the other important element of this is understanding how our patients and families feel when they leave our organization. So we survey them. We ensure that we understand at a high level what the themes are about the caring culture that we're trying to develop. We bring our leaders off-site to try and educate them about the importance of their connecting with employees and in a consistent fashion. If anything, what I want to see is we have some variation now, perhaps in practice. And I was talking about everyone getting in the same boat, rowing in the same direction, and out the same speed. So narrowing variation to ensure that wherever you work, you're getting the same messages at the same time, you get a sense of connection. Therefore, our patients and their families feel that connection too. That's what we're working on. It's a huge undertaking. People used to think, of course there's a lot of pride in developing programs like the cardiac unit, but the real pride, I think, will come when we have actually arrived at this 100% culture of caring across the organization and patients and families feeding back to us that they're feeling that.
Well, that connection, I think, is that bond and that glue that gives you that welcoming for the hospital and the time at the hospital and that discharge when they leave. They have to feel that they got the care that they needed and that they can go home safely. Because if somebody goes home and they're still worried and scared, that stress alone, that anxiety, it's terrible for your whole body, for your mind, for your soul, for your everything. And if you're feeling beat up, you're not going to get better.
Well, and two important initiatives we have recently instituted would be very standardized discharge planning protocols so that people can, in fact, receive the same information when they're going home. But secondly, we call many of our patients the next day or within about 48 hours to see if they did make their follow-up appointment, did they fill their prescription, etc. And there have been some misses that we've been able to catch and get the patient on the right road to recovery. So we're trying to extend our care, not to provide care in the community, but actually just to provide the caring sense that even though you're gone from us, in the next few days we want to know how you're doing.
It can't just be come in, get out, and next, you know. So, funny fact, by the way, I would love to see a fundraising initiative that has to do with the butter tart. Did you know that the original butter tart recipe was in a Royal Victoria Hospital cookbook?
Mrs. McLeod's.
That's right. That's right.
Oh yes, we do capitalize that on a fairly regular basis, and that our auxiliary are selling butter tarts, and we do try to use the original recipe from Mrs. McLeod.
I just had to throw that in there because I was thinking about that, the butter tarts and the old RVH. This has so much history here. It's such a fantastic place. So when you are leaving here, what do you do, family aside, what is your diffuse? What is your relax? Do you like to paint? Do you like to draw? Do you like to walk? Is there something you like to do that is just Janice?
Well, I really enjoy exercising. So that's a very big part of my ability to manage sort of stress and work and family. And I do that a lot with my husband and with my kids. So, and the second element is really now that the kids have grown up, our youngest just turned 20, the oldest about to turn 30, they are really our best friends. We socialize together, we enjoy our weekends together, we enjoy making meals together and drinking wine. So it's kind of, that is part of the de-stressor for me, is including them for sure.
Yep.
I love to read, and often I'll just read for enjoyment. So that's how I get myself to sleep, for example, or on a trip I love to read. So that's another element, I suppose. And I have a small group of friends who I really enjoy. When I'm not here at the hospital or not at a hospital function, family comes first, and then there's very little time left, but I certainly have some great friends that I keep in touch with and visit with as well.
Well, that's important. Now, do you find that growing up, like, where did you grow up? Did you grow up in the Barrie area, or where did you grow up?
No, I grew up in Sudbury, north of here. So I came south to work at Barrie.
Nice. Well, a little less snow, maybe by about an inch. I don't know.
No, actually, the snowbelt Barrie was always the story
wicked.
we'd hear about in Sudbury, actually.
Yeah. So when did you come to Barrie?
14 years ago, in 2004, I came as the president and CEO of RVH.
Nice. So what would you feel is the biggest accomplishment that you've had, or that you've helped maybe steer with RVH? Because I know that you're so humble and you're amazing at this. You tend to share it with everybody because it's always a team thing. But is there something that maybe you're really proud of as an idea that you came up with that you're really glad got implemented?
Well, it is a team sport, so I would say on behalf of everyone, clearly bringing the regional programs closer to home has had a massive impact on the region, not just the City of Barrie. And so knowing the stories we heard about cancer patients not being able to take treatment, the thousands, millions of kilometers we've saved in travel and stress for people, that's a very important part of what we all do. The area that I'm going to feel most excited about will be arriving on this consistent culture of caring. It's actually harder than building a building. It's harder than bringing programs home.
It's the heart inside the bricks and mortar, isn't it?
It is, actually. So obviously the programs are able to provide. We've been in a financially secure position for 8 years now with a balanced budget. That's a very important element of when we talk to government about looking for new funding and programs. We're able to demonstrate our stewardship of the current resources. And I think overall, though, the fundraising has gone so well. I've loved participating in all of our fundraising initiatives, the I Believe campaign with David Blencarn and the Hearts and Minds campaign.
I still have my
McCullough.
I Believe magnet.
I do too.
Yeah, way to go, Stan Sinton, on helping pioneer that too, and that was such a tragedy.
I still have Stan's hat.
Do you really?
Yes.
I went to high school with him for 1 year in high school, but I've known his mom Barb and the whole Sinton bus lines for most of my life. And what an incredible heart on that family.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so I still have my I Believe magnet.
Yes. So there's just so many moments. I don't know how we could narrow it down. Bringing care closer to home, the stewardship of our finances, that we're able to raise the funds necessary to demonstrate we can continue to bring more services closer to home, but truly it's the continued evolution of the culture.
So where do you feel, now, and I hate going into this whole zone, but where do you feel politics are right or wrong? Because there's always a politician that says the last leader, for example, maybe didn't have, had longer waiting lines and wasn't getting enough for hospitals, but every politician that always takes over always says that about the last politician leading the province. Do you find you're getting what you need from the province, or do you feel that there's so much more that you need?
Our role as a public institution is to work with every government that's elected. And certainly we have found a way in the past, and we're continuing to find a way in the future.
Great.
So we're apolitical. We just need to ensure that the government of the day understands the growth pressures, along with the size of organization that we operate, how we're going to move into this new South Campus in South Simcoe. And we'll work with our government and our elected MPPs to accomplish those goals. I have every confidence.
Awesome. So where do you see yourself growing with RVH? Because, there's all this stuff coming up in the next 2 years. Where do you see yourself in 5 or 10 years? Where do you see your role here?
Well, I think first of all, as we mentioned earlier, we're chock block full every day. So one of the stressors that you go home with is knowing that patients are being treated in hallways instead of beds because we're so full. And so we know that we're pretty landlocked up here in what we call the North Campus of Georgian Drive. So we're really working now to develop and identify a South Campus. So what I see in the next 4 years would be planning approval to continue to build something in the South Campus.
Yep.
Not to mention there are some shelled units still up here at the North Campus that need to be fitted out. So we're working on Women's and Children's program. Our neonatal intensive care unit is over 20 years old now, and it's not appropriate given the 2,000 births we have here every year.
Yeah.
Obstetrical services and how babies are delivered have changed in terms of their physical environment, so we need to work on that as well. Our intensive care unit, so lots of projects here for the original build of 1997 that needs to be upgraded and expanded. But even when all of that is done, given the growth in South Barrie, we're going to serve a population of 415,000 people in 2031.
That's a lot of people.
Right.
And people don't realize too that whole ripple and spiderweb effect of RVH. You're dealing with OPP, Barrie Police, you're dealing with Women and Children's Crisis Center, Grieving Children's, all these different organizations, Rotary, Hospice, all these different places, all in some way either stimulate and provide or take from RVH in some way, in some capacity at some point.
Well, actually, our community partners are just stellar, and we couldn't do our work without them, either if it's on the early end of prevention, early identification, or if we're dealing with partners who are caring for people in their home, either to keep them out of hospital or when they transition back to home. And then some of those partners you mentioned are really also fundraisers for us, so it is absolutely a system and a network, and it takes the village to take care of people.
Yeah, it absolutely does. So when you're looking at you personally, because this has been a lot about RVH, and I'm still trying to get to know you a little bit more. We kind of keep coming back to RVH because RVH is kind of where you are.
Pretty passionate about the place.
Oh, I'm glad. Well, if that's your passion, that's why we're here. So I want to ask you this one last question, though, is what is your message to people watching? What is your message from Janice Skot about, just life? What is your message that you'd like to share? I know I'm putting you on the spot.
Just
Your message.
Well, I think we all have a responsibility to do whatever we can to take care of ourselves, and that really starts with our children and working hard at being responsible in that. Because when we look at the senior population growing and the baby boomers aging and the chronic diseases, it is a worry. Will the health system always be there for everyone? I don't think we should take it for granted. So try to take good care of yourself. That's number one. Number two is continue to support your hospital, your local hospital, your regional hospital, and we will be there for you when you need us. Most importantly, too, we're not perfect. We've given you lots of great examples today of what we're doing, and I know there are still long waits in our emergency department, and there are patients cared for in hallways, so we're trying to work through those difficult situations. And if things haven't gone well, you need to find the right individuals to talk to about how we can make it better, so we're continuously learning from some of those situations. But I would say overall, try and take good care of your health, and then we can all work together so that we are, as an acute care hospital, there for you when you need us.
I love that message, and I think that what you bring from you does so much with RVH and for this team. You have this incredible, ability to make it accountable and loving and honest. I think that what you do here, it's not like just any hospital. There's a family involvement here. Right? And I think you take such pride in it, but you remain so humble and, kind of quiet about it. But you do a lot here. Now, how do you feel that has impacted the community, being a woman in charge of the hospital? Do you see that message?
I do see that message, but we've recently been doing some work on that because our next campaign is about generations, and we know that women have played such an important role.
Oh boy.
Interestingly enough, in our long history at RVH, 120 years, there have been more women leaders than male leaders, which is interesting. And then you couple on top of that Royal Victoria, which was a result of Queen Victoria's Jubilee and the right we had to call our hospital that based on a woman leader. And in those days, in particular, the monarchy had a huge role to play in the British government. So I think that it is exciting. I believe that, but now we know more about our history, it's actually not unusual that a lot of women have had the privilege of leading RVH, and I'm just so proud to be one of them.
Well, on behalf of people in the City of Barrie, we're all very proud of you, and I'm very proud of you for what you do here. And I want to thank you for taking the time to meet with me today.
I really enjoyed this.
Thanks, Janice.